Hey, Diana, I bet you don't know what PILMMA stands for.
Mark, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurists and just curious, welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast. Here you'll learn about marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. Hosted by Marc Whitehead, a seasoned lawyer who remembers when fax machines were cutting edge, and Diana Berry, attorney, COO, and the brains behind the scenes. Together, they are the legal world's most dynamic duo since statutes met regulations. So if you're looking to build a practice, not a prison, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful Barrister, where legal legends are made.
And welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast, a podcast for lawyers and law firm leaders about marketing, management, and life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. I am your host, Marc Whitehead, alongside my co-host, my number one, my COO, Diana Berry. Hey, Diana, what's up?
Not much. How are you, Mark? How was your 4th?
Well, my goodness, just got back from 4th of July vacation, and I had a house full of relatives, and the greatest thing after all your relatives showing up is when they leave.
So you had a good time.
I tell you what, yeah, we had a great time, and then they left, and that was awesome. So there.
Well, good. Well, happy 4th and happy birthday, anniversary. I don't know which one to America.
It's we're 250. I had to think about that for a minute, because do we really count our birthday from the Declaration of Independence, or do we count it from the date of our Constitution? Or
well, we said anniversary. I think popular. I think we were calling it our 250th anniversary. So
right.
Happy
well,
anniversary to America.
We declared independence. So yes, I think that's it. That counts. So yeah, 250.
Well,
Yay, 250.
And so, Mark, I think going back to our Hey Diana, what does PILMMA stand for?
So PILMMA, a mouthful, stands for the Personal Injury Marketing. I'm sorry. Wait, I got that wrong.
Yeah, you did.
The Personal Injury Lawyer Marketing and Management Association.
That is correct, according to Google.
According to Google, that is correct. It is a mouthful. That is Ken Hardison's group. I have been a member of PILMMA, I think, since 2013, 2014. Which is pretty close to when it started. I'm not quite certain, but been a member a long time.
Well, so today, just for our listeners, we are talking about what our top 4 or 5 takeaways were from the PILMMA Summit, which took place a couple of months ago, not quite 2 months, Memorial Day weekend in San Antonio.
Took me this long to get my summaries put together.
And come back from Italy.
And come back from 4th of July and all this fun stuff. So we thought we'd do a wrap about some of the speakers at the PILMMA Super Summit, which was in lovely San Antonio, Texas.
Our biggest takeaways from it, because not everybody could attend on account of the date.
Yes, it was a weird date because it ran into Memorial Day weekend, and I think Kim must have got a deal in the hotel or something. But
well, I was looking at the website based on and getting ready for this podcast, and he still had over 500 attendees, he said, and so I still felt it was somewhat well attended.
Yeah, it was pretty well attended.
The sponsors did a great job, and even though I thought it was very AI focused, the sessions that we talked about, or that we're going to talk about today, I think are will be very beneficial for everyone,
right?
Regardless of the type of.
Did our best to figure out what we could pick out of the summit that wasn't AI related.
Yeah, because I think that everybody, and I guess the biggest takeaway for me that we're not going to talk about, because I think it beat a dead horse, was that AI search is basically just SEO in a different wrapper. Different
wrapper, yes. So we changed out the Juicy Fruit wrapper to the Spearmint Gum wrapper. So
exactly.
Same thing.
And it's just, that's all AEO and GEOR is just SEO in another wrapper. So today we're going to talk a little bit more, Mark, about 4 of our favorite or best takeaways, and what categories would you say those are?
So I kind of looked at it all, and if I could call out most of the AI, I kind of like really Michael Mills and Matt Dubin. Matt Dubin's a friend of mine, both spoke on leadership and owner dependency and why owner dependency is a crutch. I thought both of those speakers were really, really excellent, and I wanted to go over some of the things that they said. Did have to touch a little bit about AI and infrastructure and some of the things I learned, but like I said, I don't want to beat a dead horse with that one. Financial discipline. Now, this is one that we rarely ever see at a PILMMA conference, or really hardly any conferences at all. Everybody wants to talk about marketing and management. Nobody wants to talk about finance. Nobody wants to talk about money. So we had Greg Crabtree, who wrote Simple Numbers, a couple of versions of that book, as a matter of fact. He was the keynote speaker, and I think he even gave a special free offer, which maybe we can pass on. I'm not sure. We'll look that up in a break. I think it's not like he doesn't give it to everybody. I think he gives it to everybody. But talking about financial discipline, particularly how it relates to a law firm. And then, of course, the first M in PILMMA stands for marketing. So, of course, we got to talk a little bit about marketing. So, Cassidy Lewis, obviously one of our all-time favorites, was there and gave some great insights. Tiffany, I think her last name is Sweeney. I'll look that up in a break.
I missed that one. I was in the... So one thing...
Another good one.
Yep. One of the things, Swedensky. One of the things that
thank you.
They did that was, I think, new this year for some people who are PILMMA attendees but couldn't go, is that they did breakouts. And the breakouts changed from day to day. So PILMMA goes over, let's call it 2.5 days for programming. So we had the welcome session that started, or welcome cocktail reception that started like on a Wednesday night, but programming went from Thursday, Friday into Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, which was challenging. But on Friday, they started the breakouts, and then on Saturday, they continued into breakouts, and that had, in each track varied during the day. So Friday had different breakout tracks than Saturday. And so I did not get to attend all the marketing ones because, unfortunately, from my perspective, a lot of the general sessions were so AI focused that the traditional marketing sessions, everything from like the grassroots stuff to just data, like, which I think Cassie does such a great job on data and the innovative things that she does, they were all kind of relegated to breakouts. And so I had to miss it because I was in the ops.
Yeah.
They did operations, they did leadership, they did an AI track. And so all in conjunction with the marketing tracks. And so, we'll go back next year, right? I imagine, right? This experience did not sour us from becoming.
No, I mean, we wrote our opinions in the comment. Do not put this on Memorial Day weekend next year.
Ever again, or maybe even in May, because I mean, between graduations, Mother's Day, and everything else, maybe just stay away from May.
Everything's not good.
But I think it is one of the best, most focused conferences traditionally in the industry. You know, Shane Cadlick, one of our, he's your of counsel. It was his first one, and I thought that his firm really enjoyed it. Yeah. He didn't even know PILMMA existed, and he loves it. Yeah,
and now he's an avid fan. At least he said he was.
I mean, for our personal, and even if you're not a personal injury firm and listening, you're like, okay, I'm not going to listen to the rest of this. I think there's a lot of stuff, especially in the financial discipline, that I think would be very helpful for you.
Right. All right, so when we get back, we're going to get into the meat of some of the best topics and speakers and tips and tricks that we learned at the PILMMA conference.
This podcast is sponsored by Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability benefits law firm. Marc Whitehead runs a firm of over 60 dedicated people whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of our injured and disabled clients. Marc represents disabled claimants in Social Security disability, private disability insurance, and veterans disability claims in all 50 states. Marc Whitehead is double board certified in both Social Security disability law and personal injury trial law. Marc has litigated disability cases in over 40 states and counting, and can help your clients too. Stop throwing your phone calls away. Call Marc Whitehead at 701-VIP-LEAD. That's 701-VIP-LEAD. Or visit our website at disabilitydenials.com. Referral fees are paid in all jurisdictions where it is permitted. Refer us your disability cases today and know that your clients will be in good hands.
All right, Diana. So, let's get into the meat of PILMMA real quick. So
This was one of my favorite sessions, so I'm going to get to talk about it, and
Yeah,
I'm
we're gonna
sure
let
you're
you-
going to
I will give
have
you my-
lots to say.
I will give you my contrarian spin, as it were.
Yes, especially because this one's about you, Mark. So the
I know.
name-
That's why it was so hard to listen to.
yeah, you stepped out actually. So the
I
name of
listened
the
to the
session
recording.
was From Rainmaker to Architect: How Founders Become the Bottleneck and How to Break Through. So it was, as you mentioned, with Matt Dubin, and the whole premise that they spoke about during the session was that firms stall because you're scaling people, cases, and revenue, but the leadership isn't scaling. So basically your infrastructure and your systems are failing with each new level of growth, particularly from the founder / the rainmakers, that his perspective, basically. So I thought Matt had a really cool way of, I love my stats, my hard and fast rules. And so I love this. So basically he broke it up into 3 tranches with the founder growth, that basically if your revenue is sub 3 million, you're basically considered a super lawyer. The 3 to 10 million range, you're considered the operator. And then when you're above 10 million, you're considered the architect. And of course, we talk a lot about EOS on this podcast. And so, the way that I would think EOS would call it would be that at some point you become the visionary for your firm. And that's not necessarily tied to the revenue. But one of the things, and this is kind of a tough one, Mark, because we just spent episodes 93 and 95 talking about the law firm owner dependency trap. That was 93. And the 95 was my take on how the owner can stop being that choke point. But this was such a I just thought a well done presentation on that, because we don't really talk about how you guys can be the choke point. What was your biggest takeaway, Mark, on this session?
Well, I think I combined his notes with Michael Mills, and the thing that struck me about both of them is I kind of circle back to, you sort of cap out at a leader's, not the leader's capabilities, you kind of cap out at the leader's energy level. I started thinking about that a lot, and I've been going round and round with my energy level lately. And when my energy level is high, I mean, in my mind, I can expand this firm, 10 times the size it is now, and I'm all fired up about it. But then my energy level starts to wane, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And I talked to Matt about this a little bit as well, and he was like, sometimes I just get so tired. And I think that's really part of the issue, is that when you get to a certain level of success, what comes along with that? Age. You're older. You don't have the same energy level that you used to. That's what really stuck in my mind. And God, all of a sudden I feel old.
And so continuing to tease that further, Mark, to use some of the flywheel analogy, which is where I'm trying to get to, when your energy wanes, do you feel like it's like when you feel like you could just take over the world, like as you always tell me that's our next goal, is to take over the world? Is that like a consistent 2 weeks, 3 weeks, quarter?
I always give it a couple of weeks, easy. But here's what I've also came to the conclusion that sort of the solution of that is like, everything shouldn't depend on me, kind of, and we've said this a million times, the main job of a leader is to develop other leaders. So my job is to develop other leaders that can even out that energy level over time, so it doesn't always depend upon me. So anyway, that's, if everything comes through me, then the firm is going to be limited not only by my capacity, but by my energy level. So if we can spread that around a little bit, we can spread the love and develop some other leaders. It doesn't really depend on me so much. Then I think we can even that out a little bit. It's just almost like a PI firm's cash flow. Your cash flow just, it cycles way up and way down, way up and way down. It's sort of like the financial energy within a firm. I'm talking more in terms of my physical energy, but it's the same thing. It can kind of go and kind of come up. And the more that you can spread the risk around amongst a lot of different leaders, the more we can even that energy level or lack thereof out.
Well, and to continue that again, when you have that
I
kind
totally
of
went
ebb and
totally away
flow-
from the way you were going from this conversation
Well,
tonight.
at this point, we're not following either of our outlines. So, guys, just as a little bit there, Marc sprung this on me about 5 hours ago that I was doing some of this outline, which of course upset me so much that I
you're
completely
fine.
disagreed with the way he's going to do his outline. But at this point, we're following neither of our outlines because, Marc, what you're
We're having
really
a
saying
conversation.
is that you can't have a flywheel effect when your governor is basically just up and down. When you're basically when your energy's going, when you're full throttle, your flywheel's going to try to take off. But when you let off the gas because you get tired, your flywheel's going to say, okay, never mind. And you're never going to achieve that momentum that you need to get your flywheel started.
Well, I'm not saying you're never going to. What I would
Not with that
say,
consistency.
what I would say is that you need to be aware of it. You just simply need to be aware of it, and you need to be aware of when you're having that low moment or that low week or that low month or whatever it looks like. You need to be aware of it, and figure out ways to compensate for that. Figure out ways to move the pieces around on the puzzle board a little bit to compensate when you are having those moments. I'm going to call them senior moments.
Because Dubin basically outlined 4 main areas that would be the founder's responsibilities: vision, strategy, capital allocation, and leadership. And those are really 4 big, broad things that, for me, really don't require rocks, if I may. But Marc, I think we've left our 2 quarters EOS workdays, and you've had the most rocks of anyone.
I know.
And you sign up for these. And so I'm really getting ready because, guys, we're heading into an EOS workday in a couple of weeks. And Marc's going to be like, I want rocks. And we're going to be like, but you, sir, haven't completed your rocks for 2 straight quarters. Because your responsibilities, according to Dubin, are vision, strategy, capital allocation, and leadership. And so it's hard to really kind of create rocks around those types of things. One of the things that he said, and I don't know, I think this was Dubin. I know you've identified 2 speakers here, but that you would serve as the chief culture officer. Are there culture violations that are being done by one of your attorneys? And only you and you alone can really, I can help, sure, but it's really your job to maintain the culture, which is the identity of your firm. And so, one of the things that I think Dubin really harps on is that if you create a structure around your weekly leadership meetings, if you create KPIs, and if you have quarterly planning and defined ownership of all of these things, it makes it easier for the visionary to step away or to go from the rainmaker to the architect, to use Dubin's phrase. Because I think the other thing that I love about his project, his presentation, was that he said, it's a failure to escalate things that you should be resolving within your own ownership function. And so as we think about access to you and making sure that people have the right to delegate within their own leadership, I just had a meeting with one of your team leaders today, and I'm like, no, this is your team. I support you. This is my view on it. This is the conversation I expect you to handle. And that's how you create kind of a scalable firm throughout.
Right. So, I think my main takeaway from this is know thyself and be aware of thyself, and be aware that thyself is not always perfect every damn day. And when you're not perfect, when you're not on, at least don't try to take on then more than you really should, given what resources and what energy level you have that day. Sometimes you just need to take a day. That's what I was thinking.
That made me cringe. All right. Marc,
I know it
number
made
2.
you cringe.
No. My high S is just like, I don't understand. That was Greek to me. So let's move on to topic 2, Marc. Hopefully something we can both agree on.
Cool. What we can both agree on is we're sick of AI.
I am very much AI'd out. I am not, I don't think I'm unique in that perspective. The more people I talk to, even AI vendors, but definitely law firms, we're all just...
We're getting blitzed.
It's not just blitz. It's just like, I haven't even implemented what you told me last year. It's change management.
So here's what I did take. So we were listening to Jennifer Case, and we've hired Jennifer to come in and consult with us. So I have a little bit of bias in the fact that I like Jennifer, and she's at least in my opinion, of all the AI vendors out there that have been pitching me, she's, seems to at least talk my language better than anybody, which is code for she talks down to my level. And her key point was, smarter tools alone don't make a smarter law firm. The differentiator is your organization and your workflow, which, is not, that means that cuts across all lines, whether you're talking about AI, whatever you're talking about. So it's not which AI product you buy, but basically how you structure your organization, your workflow, and how you take advantage of whatever technology is in front of you. I remember when I used to have a typewriter. You don't remember those, do you?
Yes, of course. That's how I learned how to type.
Okay. Well, all right. Maybe you.
7th grade.
Maybe 7th grade. Yes, 7th grade. I actually typed when I first started practicing law. I had a typewriter. I did have a word processor as well.
I had word processors.
But the word processor wouldn't address your envelopes because you still had the dot matrix printers, and they wouldn't do your green cards, when you have to do certified mail. So you still had to use a typewriter. Still had to have one of those. So here's what she organized some of her thoughts and actually got me focused on just two very basic things. Is within the successful use of AI, you need to, number one, organize your knowledge base. Okay, she called it your case knowledge base, which basically is everything that you want AI to know with regard to a very, very specific topic. Okay, so today I was building a project within Claude, my buddy Claude. We have a very specific problem that comes up on our long-term disability claims, and it's how do you economically value a residual disability case? And I don't want to get into the weeds and bore people, but it involves some mathematical calculation. It involves some assumptions. It involves offsetting, certain income against other types of income. It's boring stuff. There's two ways you can do this. You can hire an economist to do an economic report, probably $2,500. You can hire an economist at $2,500 to come in and give you a brilliantly pristine, perfect report about what your economic damages are under this weird scenario that nobody but us cares about. Or I can build a tool in Claude to do it for me, to give me a rough. Now, it's not going to be admissible in court, but it's a good rough that we can use in evaluating a case. So the first thing I need to do is I need to build a case knowledge base. I need to feed into this particular project that I'm doing all the relevant information, all the relevant case law, all the relevant economic principles, all of this fun stuff. I have to feed it in to give it a framework to work off of. And then the second thing she says do is now create a playbook. A playbook is a set of instructions to what to do with that knowledge bank. This is exactly what we do, what we have done our entire careers. We have our knowledge bank. It's called a law library. Okay, this is what we've always called it. And our playbook has always been the knowledge in our head that we've used to process case law, to process statutory regulations, whatever it is we're looking at, whatever cookbook we're looking at. It's the same thing. You just have to set it up just like you would in your own head. You have to set it up in AI. And she basically stated that. And she so simplified it and quite frankly dumbed it down for me that all of a sudden it freaking clicked. And that's what I thought was so great about her particular presentation, was that she managed to dumb it down enough that I actually understood it and figured out how I could start applying it.
So Jennifer Case is the owner of the owner of a company called LawTech AI, which is a consulting company. And so I don't know if I attended that particular session with you, Mark, but Jennifer did a whole AI breakout. And one of the things that she did was she shared a screen and created a playbook, and then she created a knowledge base and then ran it through one of her existing playbooks. It's kind of like a quote unquote dummy through Claude AI. She has done this for, I guess, other clients in other models, but she used Claude for for the purposes of the demonstration, which I thought was just invaluable in and of itself. It was on a Saturday, so I was having a hard time finding, because it was a Saturday before Memorial Day. In case we haven't mentioned this enough, guys, PILMMA was on Memorial Day again this year, and it was a Saturday before Memorial Day, and I was struggling. I was like, okay, how is this going to be useful? But that alone was worth the price of admission, just having her go through all the different ways. Again, like you said, dummy it down, because it's so wonderful for someone to say, okay, well, all you have to do is put all this here, and then you use it here, and then you do that. And it's like, waving their hands around, and here's the magic. But she showed you the magic behind AI.
Yeah, it's really not that hard.
And like Mark mentioned, we are working with LawTech AI, but have found her to be very helpful in terms of just helping us identify opportunities for AI, and have found it a very good use of Marc's funds.
Yes.
So I guess that one's a bit of a
a bit of an outlier from getting beaten to death by the AI, because somebody finally dumbed it down enough that Marc could understand it.
Well, I guess I was saying a bit of a recommendation for us. We usually don't refer or recommend vendors here, but I think that one we would, there.
Yes. So, all right. So, the third topic.
Moving to our third topic, which is the presentation, Greg Crabtree. He's the author of Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, and Big Profits, 4 Keys to Unlock Your Business Potential, and I guess other similar books. I didn't realize he was the keynote, but he was definitely keynote worthy. Mm-hmm. He was a very, that was just a great talk on all the things. Marc, I'm a fan of history. And so one of the things that he gave was a historical overview, so that basically from 2000 to 2020, he says, you didn't have to be that good to be successful in any industry. You just had to be present, really. And then since 2023, we've had flat to declining GDP along with a flat workforce. And so basically his whole premise was that if you want to grow, you're going to have to take business away from someone else. The corollary to that was that if growth can mask a firm's overall financial health, and that's something that that's a scary thing. It is, and it's something that Marc and I have. We've had some good fights about, because he's like, no, everything's fine. They're making the most money. I'm like, there are still problems there, sir. And you didn't really want to look under the hood. And then the problems came out very ugly one day. So
he cited a stat, and I'm not going to be able to get the stat exactly right, but he goes, there's an extraordinarily high percentage of businesses out there that go bankrupt within 3 or 4 years of having their best revenue numbers ever. And they basically get just drunk off of their revenue numbers and start losing focus on the management side, because, well, we have so much money, we can just do anything we want to do. So that's the scary thing, because I might have done that once or twice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the time to be cautious. When you have your best revenue years ever, don't be cautious. Don't assume it's going to continue.
Yeah, because I think that, one of the things that he harps on is gross margin. So not necessarily, because revenue is just one number.
How are we defining gross margin here? Because this is where he threw me, and I had to go back later and look it up again.
He said gross margin was your, I think it's revenue minus cost of goods sold.
And what is cost of goods sold?
Well, for us, it would have been any of those direct expenses. But I also, indirect expenses, I come from an oilfield services background, and indirect expenses killed one of the businesses I was part of. So I always, when I look at your numbers, I'm always thinking about indirect expenses. So things that what I call indirect expenses for purposes of, and we just talked about this with the finance episode, things that you can't, put back on a closing statement, things that you can't ask the client to reimburse you for.
Marketing costs,
cost of Litify, cost for all these new AI tools. Some of these AI tools, but also especially for a contingency firm, how long is it staying time on desk? And especially also for the flat fee attorneys out there, the estate planning attorneys, this is the one that I think will really get you, because you collected your money, but the longer that it stays active, the less you're making every single day, basically, is the way that I think about it. But, it's your gross margin number that's really going to be the most important number, not necessarily your revenue. One of the things that he said was that your business should target 20% gross margin with a stretch goal of 25%. But you should know that if you reach your stretch goal of 25%, the market's going to gun for your profit. He was very, just very clear that if you're performing well, somebody's coming for your
Somebody's
market
coming
share.
after it.
Which I think makes sense, because you also said on the flip side, this is an execution-based economy. And I love that because, that's just all of my heartstrings right there.
It's your love language.
It is my love language. But he said, if your revenue is greater than $3 million and you're not profitable, you have an execution problem.
Yeah.
And I love the black and white nature of that. Not any, just because he's such an accountant about it. It's like, no, you have an execution problem. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm not going to do this gray of, well, maybe you had a bad year. It's like EBITDA, and all the attorneys in the world, anyone who's looking to be part of an MSO or play in the private equity world knows exactly what EBITDA now is. But EBITDA is like all these things happen. It's not, and this is what my EBITDA is, my adjusted number. Nope, he's just very clear. We don't play in the EBITDA number. If you're making $3 million and you're not profitable, you have an execution problem. And I think we need some of that hard and fast rules these days. But in continuing to talk about that execution-based economy, he also talked about zero-based marketing, basically auditing every expense. And Mark, I know we did a zero-based accounting exercise a couple of years ago
On our operating expenses, yes, we did.
and including marketing. I mean, you audited your marketing expenses as well, and so I think that it's something that it's important to do every other year if you haven't already done it.
Yeah, you don't put a budget on this because that's what you spent last year.
Yeah.
Justify it every year, or every other
single
year, or every other year.
Because you have to make sure that your capital is being deployed efficiently, and then the ratio that he used was the labor efficiency ratio, which I think you loved, and I'm like, whatever about.
And that's the one we've always struggled with. In a service industry, your labor costs can get out of whack because you're not making widgets with robots. You're providing a service, and to provide services, you're generally doing it with human labor, human capital, and human capital can get expensive on you. So if you don't manage your human capital well, if you don't manage your overtime, oh my God, we are always fighting the overtime battle. If you don't manage those types of things, they can get out of whack on you. And then, it's really hard to pull that monkey back when the monkey gets out of its cage.
Yep, it is. And so he says that your labor efficiency ratio should be $2, I think $3, $2 to $3 is what he said, because this is the number that tells you whether your people cost is actually producing profit and not just activity.
So what do you mean $2 to $3? Is that a ratio? What is that?
Labor efficiency ratio.
Okay.
The ratio is $2.
So for every
dollar,
dollar,
he says.
Okay, how would I calculate that? Show
Gross
me the math.
profit divided by total labor cost, according to Greg Crabtree.
Gross profit,
which is revenue minus cost COGS.
Okay. God, now I'm confused.
I think that the number I like, Greg Crabtree, clearly, all due respect, he's the guy. Don't listen to me. I like our revenue to labor rate number that we use, and that makes much more sense to me in the way you have me do it with adding in our intake to the burden of the department based on leads. Maybe a whole other episode, because we're talking about Crabtree here. And I guess the last thing that I would say is that, because on Crabtree that I thought was very influential was that in regards to cash flow, that you should have 2 months worth of operating expenses cash with like a full line of credit. So basically no draw on the line of credit. Because that's one of the things that we always talk about in Atticus, or even in the PILMMA Master. How much cash do you keep on hand? How much cash do you keep on hand?
Everybody
wants to know.
Ask that question.
Crabtree says 2 months, guys, with no draw on your line of credit. So that's what Crabtree says, and I think that that's very important. He also said 40-30-30 principle, which is basically you set aside 40% of every dollar. For every dollar, set aside 40% for taxes, 20 to 30% for business growth, and then at the end of the quarter, take 30% for your profit.
Okay. That's a lot of taxes, man.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a whole other podcast too. But,
I know.
I thought he started the conference with a bang and was worth it. It was just so very good. Bring Crabtree back, Ken.
So he did make an offer, and I can't quote it off the top of my head, but basically go to his website, and they offered a free consultation with firms, and I think it applied to everybody. It didn't apply just to people at PILMMA. We should prepare. We should really prepare for this podcast.
It wasn't in my outline, so I did not know to prepare for this offer.
It's simple. Google Greg Crabtree Simple Numbers and go to his website, and they do make a. First of all, they have a lot of resources on the website that are free downloads, free worksheets. And the other thing he does is if you do have a firm, they will offer you a free. It might have been a half hour, might have been a full hour consultation with one of their reps, which I know is a salesperson.
We're going to look it up on our break, and we're going to put it in our show notes.
We will.
What is your the fourth topic that we're going to close on today, Mark?
So the fourth one, my love language, marketing. So there were two speakers that I really liked: Cassidy Lewis, who of course is our friend, and Tiffany Swedensky, who is also another speaker I've heard multiple times before. And the themes that they kind of ran across were the difference between rented attention and owned attention, and the difference between the two and how you have to think about it. And they're both important, but they're both serve different purposes, and one you own and one you don't, and that's what's really important. So rented attention, like your followers, your ad platforms, anything that's algorithmically dependent, versus your own attention. Your list is the most valuable thing that you own. We've talked about this extensively. We have two lists. We have our client list, and then we have our attorney list. We own those lists. Nobody can take those away from us. Nobody can kick us off the platform. You can get kicked off Twitter. You can get kicked off Google. You can get kicked off of Facebook. You can get kicked off of all these things if they don't like you. It's funny, the mass tort lawyers are getting kicked off Facebook right now, and they're all pissed about it because they're suing Facebook. So Facebook is like, you can't advertise on our platform to advertise for clients to turn around and sue us with.
Yeah, well,
and I kind of understand it.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Although it is sort of fascist in a way, but that's okay.
They're not a governmental entity. They can do it if they're a private entity.
This is the difference in our philosophies. I can just see this coming out. So anyway. Well,
they were already telling us what was real news and fake news. How is this any different? They were already trying to be the arbiter.
Well, they're already trying to be the arbiter of truth.
Well, yeah, they didn't try. They didn't pretend to be.
The real problem is they tell you the truth that you want to hear. If you're on one side of the spectrum, they tell you that truth. If you're on the other side of the spectrum, they tell you.
It is their version of the truth. And so they were not
anything to get you addicted to the platform is what they'll do.
They were not pretending to be.
But they won't sell us
impartial
ads to sue them on. But anyway, I thought it was rather funny that happened this week. But so Cassidy talked about the referral system framework, which is near to me because this is exactly what we do. We have a formal marketing channel to attorneys, and it's not just a haphazard thing. It has budget behind it. It has a very specific plan behind it. We have very specific tactics that we use in order to get attorneys to refer us cases. A podcast.
I was going to say, including this podcast.
Including this podcast right here. But you got to give some value. It's not just a marketing pitch. Nobody would listen to this podcast if we just made marketing pitches all the time. So we have to provide value. But in turn, we own the audience. Now, we have to continue to provide value or the audience will walk away. But the point is that we this is something that we own as opposed to something, that we're borrowing, as it were. And Tiffany talked about the list building framework. She called it her pipeline of trust. Now, she was talking about in terms of a client base, not in terms of an attorney referral base. But in terms of a client base, it kind of, the way she framed it out is it starts with sort of a social media discovery type thing. You get out on social media, you get out on places, people start to notice you. She was talking specifically, within sort of an electronic digital format. And what you try to do is you try to take those people and you try to turn them into an email subscriber. You try to get them to subscribe with using some sort of bait piece to give up their email, so then you can put them on a mailing list, and then you just continue to build that relationship over time until they become, evangelists, superstars that, send you raving fans. And she was talking about how you actually own once the whole point is to get from the renting to owning. When they're on social media, following you on social media, you're just renting them. Once you get their email and get them on your email list, now you own the list. Now you own the attention. And that was her big distinction, was that you had to really come up with all sorts of value-driven propositions in order to convince people to turn over their email address to you. In other words, like what we do. So we have ebooks, we have white papers, we have different offers, we have all sorts of things to convince people, to give up their email addresses. Now that's because we have to, dig for those people. The easier ones to get are our own clients, and it's amazing the number of people who do not do an effective job of maintaining contact with their own client base. So, that's sort of a no-brainer. And I think most smart lawyers do that, but, not all lawyers are smart. But anyway, so she was talking about the distinction, and I thought that was just a really key point. And then tying the two things together, Cassidy talked about systems regarding how to maintain outbound relationships. So the way she defined outbound relationships are relationships that if you did nothing would drift off. As opposed to like current clients. Of course, your current clients are going to stay with you because they have an active case in front of you, or whatever the list is. But your outbound communication is sort of the key to maintaining relationships over the long term. Whether you do it through a newsletter, whether you do it through a system of setting up events, what she called signature events, which she was talking about Cooper Hurley. They have a big signature event every year where they invite not only their clients, but then they invite lawyers and so forth. We do a sort of a version of that. But she was talking about basically a system for creating continual outbound communication with your universe and how to do it. And I thought that was, she did a really good job of laying it out in, quite frankly, a very short amount of time. And I was kind of shocked that she got such a short amount of time to speak. This was one of the things I wrote in my critique at PILMMA.
Yeah, but I think I completely agree. They missed out on a lot of the traditional marketing in the general sessions. And so one of the things that it sounds like you're talking about, Marc, is first party data and being able to own your first party data.
Right.
And, I think that that's such the value, even though the ROI is so hard, but for community marketing is you get to own that audience. That is definitely, it is segmented, right? Whether that's, Cassidy, I'm thinking about Cassidy. They're really big in the motorcycle community. They're in Virginia?
It's Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach.
Beach.
They have really great just community marketing with the motorcycles there. She's done a great job of really kind of showing us how that works. And, Craig and his ice cream truck and all the different ways, that's all first party data that you own. And so I think that that's just really cool distinction there.
Yeah. So anyway, we gave Ken our thoughts on what we would like to see next year.
I hope Ken listens to us.
We don't know if Ken listens to us, but
probably doesn't.
But he probably read our critiques, which were obvious. But anyway, but all in all, I think it's extremely worthy. It's a great event, and next year he swore to me. No, he didn't. But he better swear to me that we're not going to do it on Memorial Day weekend.
I don't think you can get me to go again on Memorial Day weekend, Marcus.
I don't think we will.
It was last day of school. Anyway, regardless, when we come back,
we're going to go through our 5 key takeaways going forward.
This is Marc Whitehead, lawyer, entrepreneur, and business coach. Thanks for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast. If we've stirred your juices, hit me up with an email at marc@marcwhitehead.com. Remember, Marc is spelled with a C. And get on the Successful Barrister newsletter mailing list. Even better, let's set up a call. I'd love to talk to you about working together, talk shop, or just shooting the breeze.
And we're back. All right, Diana. So we got to wrap this show up good with some good stuff. So what are our 5 key takeaways from the 2026 PILMMA conference?
So my first one would be to ask yourself the ownership question. And this is our takeaway from Matt Dubin. And ask yourself, are you the firm or do you own a firm? If you are the firm, you're not scaling and you're probably the bottleneck. And so just, take a look and make sure that you're working towards, I think, those 4 identifiable things that that Dubin pointed out that the founder responsibilities are vision, strategy, capital allocation, and leadership. And as a shameless plug, go back and listen to episodes 93 and 95 of The Successful Barrister, where we talk about the law firm owner dependency trap and how to stop being a choke point.
Oh, I like how you just circle back to prior
Thank you.
episodes.
Yep.
See, I never do that.
Yeah.
I have no idea
I'm
what
going to pat myself on the back for that one.
Yes, you are. So I would say number 2 on the list is I would think about what knowledge base do you want to build for any AI solution that you want. Before you even think about using AI, what are your knowledge base tools? All right, so I have, just as an example, so there's very little in the way of materials out there for long-term disability insurance, which is our main insurance practice area. There are very, very few tools out there, but there is one really good book by Scott Reimer, and we just call it the Reimer book.
Very helpful for a new employee.
Very helpful for new employees. What we train everybody up on. We use the Reimer book. But it's really, really good on setting up the basic appellate structure and the issue spotting that goes into any evaluation of a disability insurance claim. That's tool number 1 to put into my toolkit for any AI tool. Tool number 2, there is a publication out there that does a national survey of all ERISA-based cases, which most LTD cases are ERISA-based. That's tool number 2. Tool number 3 are all the training materials that I have put together over the years for my lawyers to train them on how to do this. I have a lot of written material on this kind of stuff. And you put that all in your knowledge base. And you can tell AI, look strictly within my knowledge base. Do not go outside unless I tell you. And you can create lots of solutions to lots of specific types of problems that come up over and over again. I gave the example of the residual disability clause problem that we have over and over again. It's a real weird thing that, there's not a lot in the way of publications on there. You have to just kind of do some of your own thing and do some of your own logic thinking. But we're creating this independent tool within AI to solve this particular problem or to give us some analysis on this particular problem. But we have to restrict the knowledge base. We can't let it go out into the world and look at everything, because then it will just come up with gibberish. So start with what's the knowledge base that you want to feed into your AI solution.
All right. Our third takeaway, which it would be to calculate your labor efficiency ratio for this month or this quarter, is what I would suggest as your quarter. More broadly speaking, read Greg Crabtree's book, Simple Numbers, or at least go see what you can find from his website in terms of free resources. If you have more questions about how we at the firm use a revenue to labor ratio, please let me know. Happy to talk to you about that, because it was, I think it's the better method. But Crabtree is, I think, just one of the best out there. One of the things, though, that I didn't mention, he says that data only deserves to be on a dashboard if you're going to take action on the information, which, again, just so black and white and beautiful. And I just love that it's just so very clear. And I don't know that the departments know this, but it's going to hit them this quarter.
Oh, Diana's got her horns up.
Yeah, but I gave him some time. I heard about this in May, and I haven't done anything with it yet. I think I think I should get points for not being so abrasive. So yeah. I don't know.
So the one thing I would say about Crabtree, he has 2 books specifically, and if you want to read his books, and both of them are fairly short, like 250 pages, not that length, because he's very concise about what he talks about, although it's very numbers heavy. You need to read them in order. So the first one is what you mentioned, which was
Simple Numbers.
So the second one is Simple Numbers 2.0.
Okay.
So the first one is something Simple Numbers. It's a long title.
Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits.
Yeah, that's his first
4
one.
keys to unlock your business potential.
That's the basic book. And then Simple Numbers 2.0 is an expansion with some higher level concepts behind it. And he even said you need to read these books in order. Don't go to 2 until you get 1 down. Because he goes, I assume you know the language by the time you get to the second book. Well, okay. All right. I was on number 4, was I not?
You were.
Okay. So mine is build a list of problems that you need solved. Just create the list. What are the problems that happen over and over and over again? And just make a list. And then think about, how can I solve these problems? Is AI a solution? Is some form of technology a solution? Is some form of maybe a consultant or outside vendor, could that be a solution? But what are the problems? What are the choke points that you have in your firm? And start thinking of, don't try to solve the problem. Start thinking about the tool or the person that could help you solve the problem. This is what so this residual disability thing that I was talking about earlier, that is a constant problem. How do we screen a mental SSD case is a constant problem that we run up against. How do we, evaluate our budget versus actual report every month? We've been talking about that one. How do we deal with that? We're looking at an AI solution for that. So look for your problems and then start thinking who or what can help me solve this problem.
All right.
Well, the last one is going to be a cheap ass plug. We're going to pimp out Ken Hardison and PILMMA. Our last tip is simply go join PILMMA. If you are a contingency fee practice, or I would even say a flat fee practice, maybe not an hourly practice. I'm not sure that an hourly practice might be, but if you're a flat fee or you're a contingency fee practice, I would say join PILMMA. There's so much that goes on a monthly basis. You get there's a marketing roundtable. There's a management roundtable. Isn't there an operations one too?
There is, led by the Meister Group.
And I think they just started a finance roundtable.
Yep, they did.
They have their masterminds, which there's, have to join a mastermind if you don't want to do it. They have the annual PILMMA Summit. They have the monthly magazine.
Yep.
They have a very extensive online library of materials that are very helpful.
But honestly, the listserv, I think, is just worth whatever membership is.
The listserv.
The listserv, I think, is the best. Guys, obviously, we all want to know which ones we like, and maybe even compare pricings. That definitely does happen on there. But just as much as we want to know which vendors are good, we want to know which vendors to stay away from. The no-fly list. And the PILMMA listserv is invaluable.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people that hit the no-fly list on the PILMMA listserv. So.
And you know exactly why. It's not like it's just we're, bashing, people who are trying to make a living here. There's very real reasons, whether it's customer service or the way they actually do business, that keeps them from being PILMMA, recommended. PILMMA recommended by the members themselves. Yes. This is not at all a Ken Hardison thing. They don't weigh in. PILMMA management does not weigh in. I think I've seen them close down a session once. They closed down a list topic once when they got a little out of hand, but I don't even remember why.
I don't remember what that was.
But over 5 years of being on this listserv, it definitely stays very helpful for us.
So in conclusion, I would say, Ken Hardison, this is directly at you. We pimped you out. Now we would like a free admission to the PILMMA Summit next year. Both me and Diana, thank you very much.
That is not in May. Or on Memorial Day weekend, or any other holiday weekend.
And let's stay away from Easter as well. The Easter's not good.
Yeah, that's not a good one.
Okay.
Call us if you need dates, Ken.
Yes. Let's vet the calendar. With that, we got to get out of here. I want to thank everybody for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast, where legal legends are made. I'm Mark.
And I'm Diana.
And together we're the dynamic duo of law. So if you like this episode, please rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you hit that send button to forward this on to your friend who might need a little something. If you want to visit our website and look at resources or visit past episodes, visit us at successfulbarrister.com. And if you want to hit me up with an email, my email is mark@markwhitehead.com. Mark is spelled with a C. So hit me up. Tell me what you want to talk about. I'd love to hear from you. And your email
is Diana@markwhitehead.com. Diana spelled with one N.
One N. And most importantly, be sure to visit our sponsor, Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability law firm, at www.disabilitydenials.com. And with that, go run a practice, not a prison.
Bye.
Bye.